Welcome to our workshop tonight about photography and travel. And I threw together this quick little agenda for lack of, just to foster the conversation and to make sure that we hit on all the things I really wanted to talk about and discuss. I'd like us to start with around the room welcome and introductions. What I'm going to do is I'll start. I'll tell you who I am and just like a short history of my experiences with traveling and photography. So I'm Jim, this is my studio, thank you all for coming. I was traveling and taking pictures back in the 80s with SLR 35mm cameras and carrying that big bag of canisters of film in this x-ray bag through the airports and hope that the x-ray machine didn't completely nuke the pictures either on their way out or on the way back, and you know, struggling through the old days of trying to remember all the funny film rules, Sunny 16 rules and things like that, because we didn't have all the great tools in the technology to really help us along, and didn't get the immediate feedback. So, you know, struggled through that in the 80s, getting back from that trip and waiting a week to get all the pictures back from the photo hut and trying to figure out why the ones turned out they did and which ones turned out poorly and why, because you just didn't have the information we have to learn quickly like we have today. Then in the 90s, I kind of shifted focus to the little point-and-shoot digital cameras that were coming out. And while they got rid of all the problems with dealing with film, they came with their own sets of problems, right? They were pretty low resolution by today's standards, and the LCD displays on the back were really horrible. You could barely make out the pictures, and boy, they were battery hogs. You just burn through batteries. So that technology was different, but you know, like I said, it had its own challenges. So more than once, in a foreign country, scrambling around trying to find AA batteries that actually wouldn't blow up my cameras was a real treat. In fact, this is my very last digital point-and-shoot camera I bought, I think back in 2005, back in the day. And then in 2010, I picked up a digital SLR, and photography really changed for me. And so I love taking I love going and traveling and finding new locations, and I'll save a bunch of my stories as we go along and turn it over.
To me? Oh,
yes.
My name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
I also grew up with film and slide film, and I used to have to develop my own slide film for work, and that was a lot of fun. And medium format film, which major light leaks if you didn't roll it just right.
What kind of medium format? Like 4x5?
Yeah, 4x5.
Yeah, that was fun stuff.
So so I was really good at the manual camera aspect of it, and then switching to digital, it kind of threw me a little bit trying to figure out all the knobs. But I currently have a really old Canon EOS, and just want to learn more about it. I'm really good at Photoshop though, so I pass it to you.
So do you have any trips planned, or do you have any anecdotes about trips from the past in photography you want to share?
Sorry, we do have a trip planned. This is my mother. We're going to Washington, D.C. with my children for Labor Day, and I just like to take some really good photos of them, kind of seeing the different museums. So dinosaur bones. Yeah. So I just need to make sure that I don't want to use a lot of flash, but I also don't want to lose them in the darkness.
Yeah.
So just learning how to take indoor shots while you're on trips. You know, cathedrals, I remember taking in cathedrals, you would always either I wanted to focus on the darkest part and the lightest part, or somewhere in the middle, and you'd always have to hold it perfectly still because it was so dark, and if you had any kind of camera shake at all, it would mess up the picture. So
right.
I got very good at, because I didn't want to drag everything with me because we're on vacation, so I got very good at resting my arms up against the wall and kind of not breathing and then taking the photo.
That's great, because a lot of those cathedrals don't even allow monopods in there. No tripods, and sometimes not even a monopod, and so you do have to get creative with your stability. So good on you.
Thank you.
Tuck your tight and take a picture. You tuck it in tight, you won't move a lot. I try when I do a lot of mine, I tuck my hand tight, I do HDR a lot, and a lot of times when I notice, it won't move as much when you look at the three pictures in a row.
I'll have to do that.
My
Yep.
secret was spending a lot of money and getting a stabilizing lens.
Well, that will help certainly. You can get up to 3. Now some of the newer ones 4 stops of light out of a stabilized lens, so that's a
Yeah,
good one.
because I could not at all ever, no matter how hard I tried, keep it from shaking. So I just don't have the hand power or the steady.
Yeah. Other techniques include holding your breath when you shoot the shot. The other is use your timer, so you don't have that button press,
Right.
which is that's moving
Or
your
one of
camera
those,
well.
what do you call it, where you'd screw it into the
Shutter
shutter and
release.
you just kind
Yeah.
of, I don't know the technical terms. I'm like the guy from Princess Bride.
Oh, you take beautiful photos. Well, I used an SLR digital for 5 years every day for work, but traveling is a challenge because they're heavy and all the gear is heavy, and it just seems so hard to travel with all that gear. So I'd like to be able to get the quality without having to carry so much heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit,
Yeah.
about how to that balancing act of what to take and just what to take.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Well, my name's Nancy,
Hi,
and I
Nancy.
started taking photography back in the 70s. My first one was a Pentax, and then now I have a Canon. And
Let me guess, your Pentax was a K1000.
oh, that's too far along, honey. If it wasn't last week, I can't remember. So.
Oh, okay.
But it was, it was just a good little film camera
Mhm.
and gave me really great shots for what I wanted to do.
Yep.
So, but I'm getting ready to make 2 really special trips. I've had some, and most of the time I find myself having to shoot on automatic because things just happen too fast. It's not where I can stage it. So I'm going to be out. I'm going to Nicaragua with my sister in next month, and then I'm going to be going to Yellowstone in the wintertime in February. So I want to make sure that I don't come back with everything white balance, blow everything out. So I need to make sure how I can do that. So I have these fabulous shots that I see, and that drew me there. It's a bucket list event for me.
All right, great, fantastic.
I'm Janelle. I actually just started. I have no experience like y'all do, but I just started about a year ago with photography. I got a T6i, and I just got back from the pony swim this past week. Got some pretty cool shots. Yeah, I was in mud and all that, whatever, just so I can be up front and get the picture. But I got the picture, so.
Janelle's one of my favorite models. In fact, I have some of the pictures from our last shoot I wanted to put on the wall. I just needed to run it past you.
Yeah.
So.
I'm Taylor.
Hi, Taylor.
I'm pretty new to photography. I got my first real deal camera back in February. But I have been full-time nomadic since March 8th, which means that I live in a tent.
Come on in.
And I have been traveling the country since March 8th.
Have a seat.
So,
Oh, yes,
doing
right around
photography
the corner here.
literally like all over the country. I started off here in Virginia. I've done crazy things like walk across the Sonoran Desert on foot. That was
Wow.
fun. So lightweight gear was my priority. So I got a mirrorless Fuji X-T10. My telephoto lens is not aluminum, it's plastic, which a lot of people don't like, but for me, it weighs almost nothing. So it's super easy for me to just sling that over my shoulder and carry it for 5 days in a row. And then like a carbon fiber, like super compact tripod, which is totally worth the money because it's lightweight. You can bring it anywhere. But yeah, some crazy adventures, got some great
Wow,
photos.
fun.
And I'm only here in Virginia to sell my house, and then I have another year nomadic on the road because I don't have to be anywhere till August next year.
That's
So
exciting.
yeah, kind of crazy.
My name is Daniel. As some of you may know, I'm military. I've been in the military for the past 15 years. I traveled for pretty much Hawaii all the way across to Bahrain. And I've gone to Iceland in the summer, in the springtime. I go literally all over, and I love taking pictures. I started getting really in photography in 2016, and now I've just been rolling fast, just taking as many pictures as I can. I enjoy taking pictures. It keeps my stress level down, and it's a better way to relieve stress than alcohol.
It is, it's great. Yes.
And I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. and I'm learning a lot right now. I'm a pretty much landscape photographer, but I'm slowly rolling into portraits, weddings, other things that interest me right now. So I'm here just to learn as much as you guys.
Great, thanks Daniel. So Nick, we're just introducing ourselves and giving a quick little background of your history with photography and travel.
Okay. I started goofing around with cameras in 1982. Some kid I was in the Air Force with had more money than sense and had a bunch of camera gear and really got disinterested in it, so I got like a whole darkroom set up and a Nikon manual camera and some lenses. I mean, I just got like $2,000 worth of stuff for like $200, so I was kind of stupid to pass that up. And I take it around with that for a good while, and then I put it down for probably 10 years, something like that, and then we had little people, Lisa and I. And when my boys started playing baseball, I kind of re-sparked my interest in, I'd go take pictures at the games and make discs for the kids and the parents and all that kind of stuff. And from there, I kind of found a couple of camera clubs. I started out with Picture This, which I'm sure some of you all know about or are in. And then Photo Fanatics started up, and that looked a little more of a relaxed sort of thing for me, so I got into that. And ultimately I sold my really nice Nikon rig that I loved so much with all of my stuff that I accumulated for a song on eBay, and at that point I was kind of just looking at Canon or Nikon. I'd always been a Nikon guy, but Canon was offering more bang for the buck at the time. I pulled the trigger and bought Canon, and that's what I've got now. So we're going to Iceland together in September and set up that little trip. And I'm
Are you
kind
going
of,
to Iceland?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
happy.
And he's we're you know, I mostly do landscape portraits, that kind of stuff. I tend more toward the technical. I'm not really good with people as far as, you know, as getting like natural looking. Like I see some stuff that guys do on the camera code, and I'm like, wow, you know, I wish I could catch somebody in that moment that way. So natural looking and all that. With me, it's much more structured, and you know, so I'm trying to work on that a little bit and take more pictures. Frankly, I haven't done a lot in the last 5 or 6 months as much as I'd like. But as far as the travel part of it goes, right now I'm struggling with what I need to. I'm an everything but the kitchen sink type of dude, you know. So I want to carry around 150 pounds of stuff everywhere I go, and I end up using like one lens or something ridiculous. So I've really got to curb myself to do the Iceland thing. And that's kind of what I was hoping to get out of this is, hey, what do you really need to have, and you know, just keep it kind of condensed.
Yeah.
And she's doing this because I'm doing this. 'Cause she humors me.
Oh, nice.
I'm a beginner.
So what do you shoot, Lisa?
What do I do?
What do you shoot? Camera.
What I pointed
I
at.
Okay.
shoot. I,
Whatever camera you put in your
Take a
hand.
picture of that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very
I'm
good.
not, I mean, I can use it. I can, you know, I've got some knowledge about it, but I've only been doing it a couple of years.
Well, like I was telling the group before you guys showed up, you know, I threw an agenda up here just to have something to remind me of all the things I wanted to share, but this is really a group conversation. So as we kind of come through these different topics, speak up, share your experiences. This is by no means anything like a lecture or a workshop. This is just a group conversation. So, come on. There you go. Nope. Too far. Too far.
Your swiper's not working.
My swiper's not swiping. There you go. So Dale Carnegie has this great saying, begin with the end in mind. And so I thought I'd kind of kick us off. Whenever I start planning a trip, I always think, very first thing is, what in the world am I going to do with any imagery I'm going to come back from this trip? Is it just going to go in a drawer? Is it really for posting on social media? Am I really going to want to share it while I'm on my trip, or am I just going to collect it all and then call it and edit it later? You know, what are you going to do with all these images you think you're going to be taking along with your trip? What is the nature of the trip? If it's a dedicated photography trip, like you guys are about to go on, you can design everything about it around your photography, your agenda, your equipment. Everybody there has got a common goal, but that's not always the case, right? If you're on a family vacation, you've got some competing priorities that you need to balance a little bit. Not everybody's going to be excited if I decide I want to sit around for 4 hours waiting for the light to change on a mountainscape somewhere. They want to go do other things, and they're going to be upset if I try to mandate that we do photography stuff all the time during that trip. I photograph a lot during business trips, not anymore, but when I travel for business, a lot. And so I'd always try to bake in a weekend at the end of the trip to go and do, my own thing on there. So it's all about, kind of balancing all that and making photography part of the trip if it's not really the central focus, and keeping that all there.
I've heard it said that if you go and do what you're describing, hey, wait here for 30 minutes because I want to take pictures of this stuff, that you kind of jack up the trip for yourself. I mean, there's something to be said for not necessarily always making it about your camera and taking in the experience, because to some extent you lose that if you're just fixated on capturing stuff to look at later,
Exactly. And the primary focus is spending time with family or friends or whoever your companions on your travels are. Stopping and making them wait for your photography is not going to help you in the long run.
Oh, we lost a kid at Disney that way.
Oh, did you? Okay, good. Ever get it back?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay. All right. So if you start planning your trip and you start thinking about your trip, you might decide on a couple of the key photo opportunities. Now you guys probably have a list for your trip because you're going to do a tour. Are you doing a guided tour?
The guy, yeah, do you know Travis by chance?
Yeah.
Okay, well Travis did Scotland with this guy and came
Okay.
back with some really great stuff,
Right.
and he just raved about the guy. And I had no intention of Travis and I pairing up on this thing, but I said, hey, I'm thinking about going to Iceland, can you give me the tips? He said, well, Iceland's the next place I wanted to go, let's collaborate.
Yeah.
And we
Good.
did, and the guy so far he's very communicative, he's been really fantastic to accommodate us and set everything up the way we needed it to be, so I look forward to having a good experience.
Yeah. Now, if you're on a family vacation, now you've got to start thinking about, okay, what are those key things that I really want to make sure that I've got good photographs of? Is it an amazing piece of architecture that you heard about in your destination? Is it some landscapes, some cityscapes? Is it just your family in those situations? What are the things you're going to be looking for? So, planning the trip, lots of great tools we have these days, right? Google Maps is fantastic. Not only can you see all these different kinds of maps of your destination. This is Seattle because I'm going to Seattle next week. All kinds of information about the location you're going to. In Map View, you can put up that little reel at the bottom of all the different contributed pictures from different other people. Most are horrible, but you can at least get some ideas on, oh man, look at that. I could probably go get a good picture of that. So Google Maps, of course, is a great way to start. The tried and true photographer's ephemeris, anybody used that before? Yeah, so that's a great way to put, let's say that's the Space Needle in Seattle. I want to know where sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset are so that I can plan a little bit about when and where the light is going to be for that shot. And so now, weeks ahead, I can start saying things like, oh, let's be downtown at Public Market, Pike Street Market, at 4:78, at 4 in the afternoon, because I know at 5 in the afternoon is going to be the perfect time. So you're not making your family wait. You've already planned it out. You already baked it into the itinerary for the day, and you can help get the shot. So again, that one's been around for a long time. I like it because it has both a web-based interface as well as an app for your phone, so you can carry it with you on the one. And then the one I've been using a lot lately is Sun Locator. So it has these views like photographer's ephemeris, but it also can use your camera and the compass in your camera. You can just hold it up and you can say, when's the sun going to be right here? And it'll show you the path of the sun at different times of the day, different days of the year, whatever. And it's pretty accurate.
That's an app?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, it works great. It works great in most places where your declination, that's the difference between magnetic north and true north, is pretty low. Around here, what's our declination? Anybody know? 11 degrees. It's pretty low. So here we are, 11 degrees, right about there. But I'm going to Seattle. Look at Seattle's declination. It's above 20 degrees. And so this app is going to be off quite a bit when I go to Seattle. So you kind of have to know that a little bit and plan a little bit around it. But you can still use the tool. You just have to, take into account. a
Well,
couple
even
little-
20 degrees puts you within 1/18 of where you need to be, right?
Well, yeah, but you're right, and I might have
a general at least you have a general sense of.
absolutely. I might have to pick up my tripod and move it over a couple of yards, because the sun isn't hitting this little V that I wanted it to hit just for that one perfect shot, right? But it'll get me there pretty close. Anybody else have any other tools they use?
No.
The photographer I work with uses Google Maps, where you can actually drop the person in and it shows you the area,
Mhm.
and that's how he scouts for train shots,
Yeah.
because he's a train photographer.
Okay. Oh, so he uses the street view.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
street view is great.
And he goes, okay, if I go here, I can get, all these trees in the background, so you get an idea of what the location looks like before you go there.
Exactly. Yep.
Makes
Mhm.
sense.
Cool.
And then this one, the sun locator has a view similar to this, but it'll actually even show you the shadows, and it'll mock the shadows of like buildings and other things around it. So it's pretty neat, but it doesn't have a web equivalent, so you got to do your research on your phone. Camera gear. So I wanted to start this part of the conversation talking about lenses. Because like a lot of people, I used to carry like all my lenses when I went on travel.
You need
And-
them all.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight. And like you said, you'd get back and you'd realize, oh my God, I use one, maybe two of all these lenses that I brought. And so I've kind of adopted a philosophy in the last couple of years that if I have a very specific shoot, I'll bring the lens for that particular thing. I'm going to bring a wide prime for a landscape shot, if that's one of my primary reasons for going. If I'm being paid to take a portrait, I'm going to bring a portrait lens, even though they're god-awful heavy, because that's really the primary thing that's going on. Nowadays, I just go back to this old lens. Now, this is not the sharpest lens in the world. It's fine, but it's 28 to 300. So it's like having a whole camera bag right there, right? So I give up a little bit of sharpness. It's not as tack sharp as a portrait lens or a prime, but one, I don't have to carry around a bag full of lenses all day, and two, I'm not going to miss the shot because I'm busy changing the lens. Because a lot of time when you're on travel, you're just walking around, right? You're a tourist. You don't know what's around the next corner. It could be a street scene with a lot of interesting action going on. It could be this wonderful piece of art. A lot of times you don't know. So I travel with this thing on the camera throughout the day when I don't have a very specific thing that I'm shooting. Like I said, it's a little bit on the soft side. It's only a 3.5 to 5.6, but still, it's my go-to lens when I'm traveling. So.
And not great for low light. It's probably got about a 3.5 max aperture or something.
Man, you are a great straight man, because the other thing I bring with me when I walk around is a 50mm prime, 1.4.
So when you start losing the light,
when you
that's
start-
great, a general purpose when you got plenty of light.
when you start losing the light in the evening, then there's nothing that you can do with that. So, how about everybody else? You're all about saving weight and stuff. So, what lenses are you carrying across the deserts? Plural?
So I carry my 18 to 55 kit lens.
Yeah.
And then I also, it's 18 is wide enough for me, although I would love to get a 14 prime, like that's what I really want to work towards, but eventually.
But like you were saying, man, that's so lightweight. You can carry it anywhere.
Yeah, it's perfect, and it's, for the Fuji's really, it's compact, and it feels surreptitious when I'm shooting in public places. It's not really like, whoa, here's this huge DSLR, especially the mirrorless too, really compact. But my telephoto is like a 50 to 230, and it's plastic housing, which maybe is not ideal for being like in a sandy environment like the desert, but it doesn't weigh anything. So it's really, really easy for me to carry. Yeah.
What does everybody else carry with them? Nick carries everything, or used to.
Hey man, I'm only limited by the strength of my back.
All right.
I don't take everything, but I do have a collection of lenses. I just bought a 17 to 40 for this trip to Iceland, which I'm looking forward to using.
Nice.
And on a full frame camera, I've got a 12 to 24, and that thing's just stupid. I mean, just stupid wide. You get your own feet in the shot with it.
Wow.
But 17 to 40, I think, will do me for it's an f4 max aperture lens, and probably a a little bit longer zoom, like a 24-105, and maybe I'll take a 70-200 just in case we're in a situation where we're standing off somewhere. I want to get something tighter, get some compression stuff with, you know, the lens compression from that. But I'm not going to load up huge amounts of gear. But she's taking a camera too, and they're both full frame, so we can sort of mix and match lenses a little bit off of that and take some stuff. I've got some primes, like a 28 1.8, which is great for low light and that kind of stuff. So I got to think about, because that far north, you know, day and night is a little different. And I was looking last night, I think we're looking at maybe 6 hours of sunlight, and then we're kind of dusky on the other side of that for 2 or 3 hours a day. So it's, you know, you got to sort of think about, you're not going to have super bright light the whole time.
Yeah, it's gonna be super overcast almost the entire time. Y'all are there, I went around the
Wonder
same
when
time of
the
year.
daylight hours, the brightest
They're
time
pretty
of the day is
narrow. I mean, it's
6 hours.
but even during the peak of the daylight, like the cloud cover is
It's not, the
intense.
sun doesn't get like super high in the horizon,
was-
right? You kind of get a,
I was there I was there 13 days and I only got 2 days with sun.
So
And
it's
that was
almost like a
mid-September.
softbox.
Yeah, so definitely everything is
What time of year were you there?
mid-September.
What was the temperature?
I mean, 40s. Yeah, I was
40
telling him
to 50 seems
if
to
you
be
want,
the
like
range.
I can tell you like gear wise, like clothing wise, and everything after
Okay.
all this. I'll be
Yeah,
happy to
please.
pass that on. Yeah, because very important.
And then camera bodies. For most shoots, I always like to bring a backup body just in case anything were to happen, the thing were to jam up. But lately, I've found on travel, we all have a backup camera, right?
I was gonna say, you got your iPhone.
And you know, worst case, gosh, you know, so sorry you didn't get the thing. So I'm not going to bring a second SLR body. I'm just not. I'm just going to bring that 750 that we're recording on, because it really is a very utilitarian camera. It doesn't do anything best. It does everything pretty well. So it's a good travel camera for doing a multitude of different things. It's not, you know, a portrait camera like an 810 or something like that, and it's not an action camera like a D5 or something. But all in all, it's a good all-rounder camera. So that's probably what I'll take is that. And then I carry around a little waterproof camera for just that kind of stuff. So I'll have that as a backup as well, a little Pentax
no point in shooting.
waterproof. Yeah. But it's got an optical zoom and stuff in it, so it's pretty good.
I got a little Nikon all-weather camera.
Yeah.
It works great. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
if it's sprinkler or something, I just want to jump out and grab a few pictures. The thing works great.
Yeah. I take mine kayaking and stuff, where I'm not going to bring that kind of stuff. Any other thoughts on lenses and bodies for travel?
When I go on military travel, I normally bring my Tukina 11-16 and my kit lens 18 to 140, and that normally does me just fine for all travel I've been doing, military wise.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah, because it's not really about the gear. I mean, you obviously have the skills. Your work is phenomenal, and we love it. So it's not just like stoves don't cook good food. Cameras don't take good pictures. It's the cook. I do want to talk about tripods a little bit. For one reason, man, I spent so much time trying out travel tripods. Thank goodness Amazon and their return policy, because I bought and returned a whole bunch of different tripods. I even took a special trip up to Richmond Camera in Carytown and tried out a couple physically. And my own personal experience, I love this one. I ended up with this one. I had a Manfrotto B-Free, which I thought was really nice. That had carbon fiber legs. I had, gosh, I can't remember, three-legged thing, a couple other brands I tried, and I sent them all back because they all had something I didn't like. One of them even fell apart a week into having it. I thought it was going to be the one, and then it fell apart. So build quality, obviously very important. You touched on carbon fiber being lighter. I actually found out in my research that you're only saving a couple grams with most carbon fiber tripods. Now, if you're doing serious hiking and backpacking like you were doing, grams are important. They add up very fast. But for most of us that aren't going to be doing that kind of strenuous stuff, the grams you save in carbon fiber aren't what make carbon fiber worthwhile. It's the vibration reduction. You were talking about vibration and stuff. Carbon fiber absorbs an awful lot of vibration. So even a lightweight carbon fiber tripod, you'll get a little bit sharper pictures than something that's made with aluminum legs. I like this one for another reason, and that is I shoot Manfrotto tripods, and I could put a Manfrotto quick release plate instead of the Arca plate that a lot of these come with. And then the third thing that I didn't think was going to be all that important was the monopod conversion. So a lot of these you can take off one of these legs in the center post and put them together and make a monopod out of it. That works great for museums and places that don't allow tripods. Now you've got a monopod you can quickly grab a hold of and make. But what I also found was when packing this, I always pack this in the bottom of my Pullman bag where the slide rails and stuff kind of make those grooves, and by taking this third leg off, I make it much flatter in my luggage and it takes up less space. So, like I said, the Manfrotto Be Free was an amazing travel tripod, but it didn't have a monopod feature in it. Some of the others had other things, like I couldn't put my quick release plate on it that I use for all this other stuff. Others, the ball head wasn't all that good, so I'd have to replace the entire ball head and that sort of stuff.
I have a CereWeed tripod, brand tripod does the same thing with the monopod.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Another thing, because these things are so light and they're not the most stable tripods, especially for landscape and stuff, getting one of these that have a sandbag hook on the bottom so you can hang your camera bag on it. You don't need sandbags, just put something heavy on that little hook on the bottom, and that'll really stabilize that tripod even when because you have to extend the neck for these things. They don't come up high enough. You still have to extend the neck, and that makes it a little less stable. So anything you can do to stabilize that worked out great. $65. So
And who was this by?
this is a Dolica.
A Dolica?
Spell that, would you?
DOLICA.
DOLICA.
One other thing about carbon fiber over those, though, I would think if you were going to be in a lot of salt air or near the water, beachscapes, that kind of stuff, carbon fiber doesn't corrode like metal does. So, and aluminum doesn't rust, but it does. Sliding legs and that kind of thing over time could be an issue.
Yeah, but it's not the tubes; it's all the joints, and the joints are still metal.
Right.
So even on a carbon fiber tripod, all these joints. This is where all the sand goes in these little joints.
And periodically, it doesn't help to take your stuff, extend the legs, wipe it down with WD-40, and keep it working slick anyway.
Yep.
So little preventive maintenance keeps it working the way it ought to.
Yep, absolutely. Any other thoughts on tripods?
I'm just curious why a museum would not want you to have a three-legged one, but they'd like you to have a three-legged
Yeah, it's a
one.
trip hazard. And you get these photographers that'll set up these big tripod rigs. They're in the way. People have to walk around it. They can't see it. With a monopod, it's really not taking up any more space than you just standing there. So, yeah. Lights and modifiers. Like, if you're not, unless you're going for a model on the beach kind of shot, you don't really need to bring a whole lot of modifiers. I find you can improvise modifiers wherever you are. I've used those little accordion sunshades from my car. I've used T-shirts as scrims. I've used other things, and those even the smallest of the pop-up modifiers and reflectors don't seem to take up too much room for me. Lights, I usually only travel with just one speed light, and I don't bring a lot of kind of attachable modifiers for that. I just deal with it because I'm just using it for maybe a little bit of a fill light at sunset. I'm not trying to do a big fashion production or whatever, so I keep my lighting to a minimum. How about other folks? Do you carry around a lot of lighting gear with?
I'm a big fan of the MagMod system. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
Or not, but it's a pretty trick. I mean, it'll do just about everything, and it's super simple to use. So for like gelling stuff at sunset or whatever, trying to warm the light off your flash is mostly what I've used it for. But we got snoots now and all kind of crazy stuff with it. So that's kind of handy.
Yeah, they got grids and snoots, and they got the
Fresnel lens now where you can do the projection. I mean, it's just wacky how much stuff they got for it, but it all collapses down. It's all silicone. I mean, you can really mash it up and shove it in your bag, and it pops right out, ready to use. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah. I'm cheap. I just design and print my own stuff, so that just came off a 3D printer, got gels and grids and stuff that I just pop on.
The other thing, if you're doing stuff like where we're going in the evening, or you get into dusky light situations, carrying something like a nice LED torch or whatever to do light painting
Like paint, yeah.
on stuff would be kind of handy. And I always keep a couple of little flashlights in my bag anyway, just to be able to find stuff in the dark if I need to. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea.
Good call. Any other thoughts on lights modifiers?
I do got a question for you because you brought it up with the fact that waterproofing your bag. Do most camera bags come waterproof, or is it hit or miss with that?
I've rarely seen a bag that actually advertises as being waterproof. A lot of them, like this one, come with a little rain jacket. So it'll come with a little cover-up rain jacket that you can put over it. I just put some tent rain guard, spray rain guard for you can get at any camping store. I always put that on all my gear, just in case I get caught in a light shower or something. I don't want to stop and put the jacket on it. But usually that's plenty. I mean, most of my gear is waterproofed anyway. It's all weather sealed, so a little bit of moisture isn't gonna get it.
Rust-Oleum makes this never wet stuff now that you can buy in a spray can. You've seen the ads where a guy squirts mustard on his shirt and it just rolls off.
Yeah.
It's that stuff. So you spray it on there and water and nothing sticks to it. It just rolls right off. Whatever you want to. I mean, it's crazy. If that guy does, he takes a thing of mustard and like this, rolls off his shirt, and you can tell there it is.
What is it
I
called?
need that.
It's called Never Wet. The other thing, they have a guy do one boot with this stuff, and then he runs through a mud hole, and he comes out, and one boot's muddy, the other one looks like he never stepped in anything. I mean, it's hydro something. No, it's not. Well, maybe it's hydrophobic. Yeah, it's. There's a name for it.
Yeah, hydrophobic.
It's the chemical properties of the stuff.
I gotta look into that because they said, because I went to B&H in New York, and the bag cover, my bag is so small I can't get one, so I'm gonna either get a bigger bag or find a small cover to cover my bag up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was trying to figure out. I might just get a bigger bag. That might just work out a lot easier.
And as far as choosing a bag, it really depends a lot. Most of us probably have a dozen or more bags. I certainly have 6 or 7 here, and maybe more back at the house. But the cheap bags don't last. You burn through them; they start to tear. With a bag, you really do get what you pay for. I've had this bag now for about a year and a half, and it still looks pretty close to new. It does have the big waist strap thing, so if I'm going to go hiking with it, although I don't carry this much gear when I go hiking, I just carry the couple of pieces I need, and I use a smaller bag. But to go through an airport, the important things for me is big enough to carry all the gear I take on travel. So it's cameras and lenses, and now a drone and all this stuff. So I need to be able to run through an airport with this thing, but it needs to be able to fit under the seat. Because
Will that fit under the seat?
this will fit under the seat of everything except the smallest regional charter planes, like a little Dash 8.
What brand is that?
This is a Manfrotto 50. They have a 30, which is about yay big, and they even have a couple of smaller ones.
The Veloci or whatever, Veloci something. There's a V something name. I was looking at them. I got a really nice 8-case bag. I mean, it's the Mac Daddy, man. It's beautiful. It's well made. Pockets out the yin yang. It's crazy good, right? I just found out Iceland Air doesn't. It's too
big.
deep. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a paperweight for this trip anyway.
Oh wow.
So so I got to get something that's more. That's probably closer. They have a 7.5-inch depth. This way, length and width, I'm good. I got to have 7.5 inches that way. And this bag I've got's like 10.
I think I got that one. I guess what I'm looking at is what I'm going to get then.
And then getting something that carries a laptop as an
That's
alternative,
right.
or a tablet, something that has the pocket for that is awfully handy.
Yeah. So yeah, something to carry. All the gear that you're planning on taking with you is really important. Having the enough compartments and containers for the things you want. Another thing I like about is the cheap ones all have black liners, and it's so hard to find little stuff in it. So getting something with a nice colorful liner color that's not the black of most of your camera gear is really important too. This one's got like lots and lots of little pouches for stuff. I can put a laptop in here, I can put a tablet in here, although I'll talk about that in a minute, why I don't do that, and a tripod over here. So I can load this stuff pretty heavily, and I have a couple of times, but I think the more and more I travel, the more I'm kind of discriminate about what I take.
Have you come across any camera bags that are like ruck style? The only one that I've been able to find is what I'm using now is a low pro. And it has like the side compartment that can hold a body and one lens, but it's not like a large enough
Amazon.
main compartment for
Yeah.
me to fit like more than like 2 days worth of gear in it.
I was
Yeah.
on Amazon a
I've
couple
been
days
really
ago.
struggling with that. I didn't know if anyone was familiar.
You're talking about a pack style bag, like a backpack
Yeah.
style thing?
Like for long distance hiking
They had a couple on there when I was
on
looking
Amazon,
for Amazon.
that have camera pouches on them.
The camera pouch, because I was looking for them, and they was normally the first 5 would normally pop up, and then go to like ones look like that. But for the most part, those ruck type ones you see like for military like type of material, that's what they had for most of them was that
I would
type.
like to get some of that from you, that information.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that too, because when I travel, like I just went to Japan for 2 weeks, I took a suitcase, and it was a carry-on suitcase and a backpack. That was all my gear for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And my camera's in that book bag, so I want something that I can carry gear in and whatever else, and plus my camera.
Yeah.
You know, these semi-rigid things are kind of the style mostly. But Domke used to make, their shoulder bags used to be very collapsible, kind of cotton ducky, real easy to pull your stuff in and out of, you know, sort of a loose form type of thing, not the semi-rigid thing. I don't know if they do backpacks or not, but Domke is one I look at.
All right. Yeah, now that's what I get my gear to and from my vacation destination, but when I'm walking around all day, I don't even use a camera bag. I just use this Maxpedition little sling bag.
Huh.
I can fit my one lens, one camera, 50 millimeter into that, still have a place for water bottle, maps, whatever thing, and
That's
it's
smart.
got, you know, all kinds of places for D-rings and
That's
crampons and all that stuff. What?
Is that a sling bag?
Yeah, it's a sling bag. So it's over the shoulder, which is nice because it's comfortable, and it's also you know, harder for someone to steal. And like I said, it's just an Expedition, like, you know, I think it's designed for, you know, police use or whatever, but really heavy duty nylon, it's not gonna rip. So I just use this during the day. I fold it up and throw it in my luggage on the way there and back, but while I'm walking around during the day, I just use that.
And you can catch really good deals on messenger type bags, which is over the shoulder. Lots of people make messenger bags way under $100. I mean, somewhere between 35 and 70 bucks, you can get a nice bag.
Yeah.
The only bad thing is if you're female, because when you have any kind of chest, because it'll go between here and it'll actually kind of hurt. My bag does that. I have a over the shoulder one, and I didn't think. Okay.
Some of the newer bag people like Peak Design makes some really interesting stuff.
Yep.
Think Tank makes some really good stuff. None of this, I mean, if you're gonna buy something that's gonna last you, none of it's cheap.
Right.
So you'll spend 100, 150 bucks on a pack like that, but I mean, if you buy right the first time, you can keep it for 10 years, so.
Yeah.
You know, when you really
Yeah, I think a lot of us learn that lesson. You get the cheap nylon stuff, and after even just a couple of, you know, lugging it in and out of the trunk of your car, it starts to tear and rip because it's just.
So you can buy 6 of those, or you can buy
Right.
one of these.
Now, yeah, if you want to change the style every year, go right ahead and buy the cheap stuff, but you are going to have to be buying a new bag all the time. So, you know, it's just depends.
I'm bad when I find something I like to buy 2 of them, because I'm afraid by the time I need another one, they'll stop making them. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just buy 2. I have my own replacement when the time comes.
I had a bag that came with like a 3-year warranty, but I kept wearing it out after a year, and so they kept replacing it. And after the 4th one, they said, "This is the last one. We're not replacing it anymore." So. Any other thoughts on gear?
It's just like anything else, you know, you can buy cheap stuff 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
or you can just pony up and go ahead and spend 150 or 200 bucks or whatever it takes and buy the good thing one time. And that's a hard lesson to learn, and a lot of people learn it on lenses, unfortunately,
Oh, yeah.
where well, you know, I can catch this lens for 150 bucks, but I really like the look that this $500 lens produces. You know, in the end, there's no substitute for the $500 lens. I mean, at some point, you just gotta
Yeah,
pay
pony
to
up.
play, you know?
Yep. All right, power and batteries. Who, when you travel, does your bag look like this? Mine used to. So all your different batteries, right? Your camera takes a certain kind of battery, and your flashes take a different kind of battery, and your tablets and your laptops and everything in the world takes all these different kinds of batteries. You got to make sure you got all that stuff. Not a bad idea to pre-pack before your trip and make sure you have plenty of extra batteries of whatever it is you need to do. And
An outlet adapter.
yeah, set it up with all of your adapters, all of your chargers. International travel, make sure you've got a way to plug it in, because once you get overseas, it's going to be much harder for you to find that international adapter thing. I used to carry around literally a pile like that. What's not there is the big AC power strip you need to plug all that stuff in when you got back to the hotel room. And what I also don't see is the 5 or 6 12-volt car chargers you need to plug different other things in. Also, be aware if you're doing air travel, all the new restrictions on different kind of battery types. Lithium-ion batteries must be in your carry-on. They must be either installed in the device or properly covered so that the contacts don't spark and cause the thing to either short and heat up and catch fire, or it could even explode.
So the lithium ones have to be in your carry-on?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so check the FAA. They're changing all the time too. So the total weight is changed a couple times this last year. Like I said, if you have to have them uninstalled, they have to be covered. Either if your some batteries come with a protective cover that you snap on. If not, just tape it up, just really well, and just let them know these loose batteries have been covered.
I have a weird question, and it's just from listening to different photographers that I know. One person is scared to put a lot of batteries in any check luggage because of the freezing aspect, or like it goes into the cargo and it could get too cold. And then my other one swears that you have to keep batteries in the fridge to keep them longer. So
Yeah. Very
I-
contradictory.
So
So-
back in the day,
they're older gentlemen.
yeah. So back in the day, there was a little bit of validity to that. But things like lithium-ion batteries actually have circuitry built in. They self-discharge over time and things like that. So if you leave it on the shelf, you come back 6 months later, it's going to be almost dead because it discharges itself to protect itself and all that kind of stuff. So
It
yeah.
doesn't get the memory effect that you got with the nickel or the NiCads.
Right. The nickel ones, you always used to have to discharge them all the way, or they wouldn't recharge all the way, but that was a chemical memory versus lithium ions all have circuits built into them. So with modern camera batteries and other kinds of drone batteries and other things you might carry with you, all those are pretty smart. They don't mind the cold, although keep in mind if you're going to a cold climate, your batteries are not going to last nearly as long as they do in warmer climates. All batteries lose efficiency in cold climates, and you don't want to leave them in your car if you're going to a hot place because they can expand and explode if they're left in too hot of an environment, and if they're too warm, they won't recharge. So if you leave them in your car and you expect them to be recharging along the way, you could get to your great location, no battery, don't know why your battery wasn't charging along the way. So knowing your batteries a little bit is very helpful, and the properties of the different kind of batteries you're working with. I used to travel with this giant mess over there, and even the last couple trips to the left coast. So recently I took it on myself to get rid of as much of that spaghetti as I possibly could, and I said, you know what? As much as I can, I'm going to go to USB charging. So this is my new little bag to replace a pile that was probably bigger than that. So I started with just a 4-port USB charger, but each of the ports is 2.4 amps, so it's got plenty of juice to recharge a tablet in an hour or so. It's international, so it comes with all the adapters for all the European. It even comes with an extension cord. So instead of just plugging that into the wall and having to have all my stuff hanging on the wall, it comes with a short little cable, so I can put it on the table. This one was from BestX, and I got it from Amazon. It was actually really cheap.
Is that BESTE?
BESTEK. Here's the little extension cord that came with it, in case I don't want to have all that stuff dangling from a wall.
And as you said, it's already pre-programmed for international travel.
Yeah, it comes with a number of adapters. You saw me pop the little
Okay, it's
thing off there.
adapters for it.
So it comes with 3 European adapters for, UK, Italy, and I can't remember what the third one was, but
BESTK.
BSTEK, yeah, you can read it over there.
BESTK.
Also, my
They're
camera.
marketed under several names.
Yeah, you can find that on Amazon all the time. Just go to Amazon. There's lots of options. Another thing, I don't know about your camera brand, but Nikon's battery chargers are the dorkiest things in the world, and they take up a ton of room. So I got a USB dual battery charger for like $9. So now I can use my USB system to charge my camera batteries at the end of the day. And let's see what else is in here. Yeah, a whole bunch of 1 foot long USB cables. So instead of that rat's nest of stuff that's dangling around, they're nice and short. They're for when I'm charging all this stuff up and I have a little tiny table to work with. I just went and grabbed a 6-pack of decent Sabrent, which is a pretty decent cable company brand, and so I can use that for drones and recharging stuff and whatever. So I'll be able to greatly reduce that big spaghetti mess, and I think that'll be real good. The only 2 things I have that can't be USB charged are my flashes, because they're lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion battery packs are mostly 11.1 volts. USB is only 5 volts. So you can't recharge it directly, and whatever device somebody could come up with to up the voltage would end up being much bigger than the original battery pack, the original charger anyway. So like I said, my flashes are lithium-ion, but I'm not planning on bringing a lithium-ion charger for this. I'm planning on bringing this and 1 extra charged battery, and that's going to last me my 2-week trip, because I'm not going to be using my flash all the time. So I don't need that. And the other thing I'm taking with me for this trip that's lithium-ion is the drone batteries. So I'm going to have to bring that charger. I don't have an option, but I'm only going to bring the car charger. So I'm just going to charge the batteries as I use them as I drive along, and by the end of the day, they'll all just be recharged, ready for the next day. That's the hope. So.
Well, and if you get 2 or 3 sets, like I run these AA for my flashes, I run these AA rechargeables now. Just charge up 2 or 3 sets and take them with you. You're probably not going to burn through 2 or 3 sets of batteries, especially doing the kind of thing we're going to be doing. I mean, if you're going to have to do portrait stuff for a week, then you'd have a different situation. But 1 or 2 sets of batteries, you're probably good for the week.
Well, except you're going to be in kind of cold weather there too, right? So bring more.
Yeah. Won't be taking a lot of flash photography.
And if you, if you're, remember those batteries are going to discharge on their own too. So if you're going to be out there for 2 weeks expecting to throw a pair out of your luggage into the flash, they're not going to be at 100%. So you just got to keep that in mind.
True.
Data management. So from the camera to the memory to how are you going to make sure you've got backups of all this, these great photographs that you spent all this time and all this money to finally capture? How are you going to ensure that you're going to get them all the way back home? Memory cards are going to fail, and they're going to fail when either you're shooting a wedding or you're on travel. It just seems like that's the time memory cards fail. And so a strategy would not be just buy really big memory cards, because you never know. It may be the last day of your trip and that memory card fails and your whole trip is gone. You really want to have a strategy for backing up your pictures along the way. One thing you could do is buy one of these little standalone boxes. This little NAR box is pretty new, but they've been around for a long time. It's literally a box. You put your SD card in. This one has internal hard drives, or they have some others that you just plug in. Then you push a button and it does a file transfer.
So where does it go?
It just goes, well, in the case of this thing, it goes to the internal drive that's here. So then you just plug it in later as a USB drive and you back the thing up. Like I said, others don't have a hard drive in, but you can plug a hard drive into it so you can carry a drive with you. plug that into your NAR box, plug that into there, and hit a button, and it goes.
Another thing is that depending on what country that you're going to, be aware of what the rules are about photographing in those countries. Because I've had it happen to me.
Yeah.
They will take your memory card
Yeah.
like that, and you will not ever see it again. So I always have multiple memory cards if I'm going, like Nicaragua would be a great example. Be careful where you're shooting at, because they will take your memory card from you and back it up. Use
Right.
new ones, interchange them.
Same for Bahrain, they'll do the same one in Bahrain.
Oh,
If
yes.
you take buildings, if you take pictures of their buildings,
Mm-hmm.
they get really, and they would sit there and they'll sit there in front of you, just delete all your pictures right in front of you, and they give your camera back and walk away.
And you're lucky
Yep.
if that happens too.
Yep.
They give it
Yeah.
back.
In fact, I had a note on that on one of our later slides. So
Although they do have memory card,
That since Wi-Fi,
no, that you can download things on your computer so that you can recover photos that are deleted on your memory cards.
yeah, that works if you accidentally format the card.
Mhm.
I find a lot of times when you actually have a card failure,
Mm-hmm.
the circuitry is literally dead and there's just no way to recover it. So you're right. You a lot of times you can recover deleted files if you haven't written anything over that space in memory. But so
Still better to have more than one.
still better to have more
Oh,
than
yeah.
one. Now most of us travel with something, a laptop, or I travel with this tablet. And it used to be that I would come off here with a OTG cable to a USB hub, and then I would plug a hard drive into one port, then I would plug a card reader in another port, and I'd take my SD card out and I'd plug it into that, and I'd use this tablet to basically as a NAR box, make that path to back things up from the cards to the hard drive. They make ruggedized hard drives, but I find them really expensive, and if this is your only backup, maybe it's worthwhile to get one of those ruggedized USB hard drive. This is designed for just this. This really is designed as a backup solution while you're on the road. What I find now is I end up doing both. I'll back up, at the end of the day, I'll take all my pictures and I'll back up 100% of them into this. And then I'll bring them into Lightroom Mobile here, and I'll do just a quick cull, because a lot of times you can spot those pictures that are this is worth working on. It may not be the perfect picture in the end, but it's the best pictures of the day. And in Lightroom Mobile, I'll just drag those to a Lightroom Mobile collection, and as long as this is on Wi-Fi, it automatically sticks it through the cloud back to my computer back at my home, and then onto my NAS, which is another layer of backups on top of backups on top of backups on top of backups. So it seems like a lot of overkill, but if you've ever been on a trip and taken what you believe are really amazing pictures and then they're gone, you get a little paranoid about it.
Never have one copy of anything
Yeah.
that you want to hang on to.
So what are other people's strategies for backing up their pictures while on the road?
I normally when I get done with if I shoot in the morning or whatever, sometimes to come home immediately take it off, and sometimes I wait till the next morning to take it off. So it all depends on how I feel that day, but I normally take it off within a day.
Now, when you're hiking across the desert, you don't have the luxury of a lot of equipment and being able to stop and
You be
plug in
careful.
and be on.
You're just really careful.
Are you just swapping out your cards often? And
I have probably 3 different memory cards that I'll rotate between, depending on how long I'm out for.
Mhm.
And then every single day, if I have access to my laptop, I will download. Obviously, if I'm out camping, then I can't. But and then usually 2 or 3 times a week, I'll also back what's on the computer up into Lightroom, so it's in a cloud. So it's there somewhere. I can get to it later. But again, the problem with Wi-Fi, I never have access to that where I'm at.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I can hotspot my phone to it if I have good enough service, but that's rarely
Mhm.
the case.
Yeah, I think more often we've got a scenario where you've got Wi-Fi access in the evening at a hotel or an Airbnb or wherever it is you're lodging for the night, and you've got the opportunity to make that synchronization to the cloud.
Most people probably could do that. Yeah.
There are satellite radio things, but unless you're being paid huge amounts of money by Nat Geo or somebody, most of us can't afford to do that just for our vacation
No,
pictures.
but when I'm driving between locations, I can usually find a Starbucks.
Yep, there you go. All right, good. I mentioned before I used to have like a card reader and a hub and a bunch of other stuff that I plug in. Now, when I travel, I've just switched to using micro SD cards in sleeves. So I can just pop the micro SD card in. This one's got an SD card slot in it, and that's two less things I have to carry, two less things that might fail in the trip. And so, I'm just kind of always actively trying to reduce the amount of things, the total inventory count of stuff, because any single point of failure is just that, and don't want to have it. Plus the drones only take micro SD cards, so do a lot of drone stuff.
You can't use micro SD cards in regular cameras, can you?
Yeah.
Yes, oh, you can?
You just have to put them in the
With an
sleeves,
adapter.
little adapter
I was
sleeves.
talking to somebody, and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't use the SD card.
You take a speed penalty, but I'm not out there doing, flow posing fashion shot. I'm not being paid by Nat Geo to do birds in flight. So I'm willing to take the penalty in speed by going that route for less likely something going wrong.
Okay. Yeah, because when I was in Japan, that's what I ran into. I was like, I can get this and use this, and they're like, yeah, you can't use that. It's not built for camera. If you're to get T6i, and I was like, okay, that sucks. So it's good to know.
Yeah, I use them all the time. Also, when you're buying memory cards, a lot of there's two schools of thought that I've heard. One is never buy an SD card faster than what your camera can write to, and that makes sense because the faster cards are certainly a lot faster, a lot more expensive, and you're not gonna be able to, especially if you're trying to do sports and wildlife. It's you can only go as fast as your buffer will let you go, and it's optimized for cost. But a lot of times, for me anyway, it's not that. It's I don't want to wait while my picture's all imported into Lightroom, which seems to take forever. And so the built-in card readers on my laptop and my tablet are UHD-3, and so they can handle very high speed data transfers when I'm doing the import part of the process. And when you're on travel, a lot of, maybe you've got an arrangement where like, okay, you get back for the day and everybody takes a 30-minute siesta, so you use that opportunity to throw the card in and hit the import button in Lightroom or whatever your synchronization process is, and it's no big deal. I always find that, that it's impacting the agenda for the evening if I sorry, hold on a second, no, go back. If I take too long importing my pictures. So I like to go with the faster cards, faster than the camera can even use, just for the import purpose.
Are you taking your pictures in RAW?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
USB 3 is the way to go. If you're using 2, please go to 3.
Yeah.
Much faster.
Protecting your stuff and you. So a lot of times when we're traveling, we're at a place where a lot of other tourists are going, and guess what? That's where all the thieves see a target-rich environment. Don't carry around some big bag that says camera bag, that's really, really obvious. That's one of the reasons I don't carry around this. I mean, I feel bad enough that I'm in an airport with that, but it's less likely I'm going to find a thief, stealing my bag in an airport unless I do something dumb like leave it somewhere. Also, these camera straps. Your vendor camera strap, first throw it away because they're all garbage. I don't care what brand is on here, but yeah. And all you're doing is you're saying to a thief, this is the value of the item I have hanging around my neck. They all know what the value of this camera is, so why are you advertising it for them? Why are you making their job easier? Make somebody else the easy target for them, and there's so many nicer camera strap options out there. Go out and get one that you like. I happen to like Black Rapid Peak as another brand that I've used, I like as well. And or get something that's stylish. I've seen people that like convert guitar straps. You know, that's a really popular thing to do, and it's, you know, it's a little something a little different, and it's gonna not make you that target.
Neoprene's popular. And the other thing you can do is take a little piece of black gaffer tape or something and just cover the big white bold camera brand name on their pentaprism, you know. I make it that much harder. They don't know if it's Canon or Nikon or
Yeah.
whatever, something cheap.
You know, take precautions. Don't leave your stuff laying around. Like this lady is about ready to lose her camera bag to a thief on it looks like a railroad station of some sort. You know, keep your stuff handy, keep it with you. Like I said, I use this Sling bag mostly because it's comfortable, but also because it's across the shoulder. It's harder for a thief to come do a quick snatch and grab. And have insurance. I mean, this goes with this. Forget travel. I mean, you should have your gear insured anyway. A lot of people don't realize your typical homeowner's insurance does not cover all of your camera gear. Many of us have learned that the hard way. So having a personal articles policy rider on your insurance or a separate insurance policy is really important, especially when you're out and you're traveling and you are at that target. I think it's important to know the value of your gear, make sure it's properly recorded, make sure it's properly insured, because you know you got a higher probability of losing it on travel than it is sitting in the trunk of your car back home.
You can also use a service like Lens Tag, or there's probably a couple others now where you actually go and put in the serial numbers of your gear. So if it ever does happen to be stolen, you know, you can extract that from the exit data. If pictures start popping up from your gear, or somebody's got something on Craigslist or what, I mean, it's, you know, it's probably 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in a million, but it can't hurt.
Yeah.
Register your stuff.
Yep. And then, like you were saying, you know your local laws and customs. A lot of countries don't allow drones in. I've had people that spend the cost of their drone getting their drone back because they needed the data that was on it that was as it was absconded in customs. You know, a lot of countries, like you were saying, UK is another one. They don't like you taking pictures of their public buildings. I think Sydney Opera House is another one, right? Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House. I don't think that you're allowed to take pictures of that, which seems kind of crazy.
There are places in the world where people get nervous when you say the word drone anyway.
Well, like Virginia Beach. Also, you know, when you're out in doing stuff, know the kind of the colloquial customs. Like if you're in Mexico, you take a street photography picture, give the kid a peso. Say, here, you know, I took a picture of you. That goes a long way in keeping, he probably knows all the thief kids in the neighborhood, and he got a peso for it, so instead of stealing your gear, they're trying to get you to take their picture. That's a whole lot cheaper proposition than replacing all of your equipment. But that's the most important slide right there, right? Have fun with your photography. I mean, if you've planned it right and done all the right things and brought all the gear that's going to make the thing work, then you know, you're going to have a lot of fun, and you don't have to worry about that stuff along the way. Is there anything that I didn't bring up that you find important in your travels?
I think the one thing that you all said earlier, and it made me have a flashback, I had the opportunity this past October to be at the Balloon Fest in Albuquerque.
Wow, that's
which was,
amazing.
again, one of my dream trips. And I'm taking pictures, and I mean, the balloons are going up everywhere around me. You can go right on the field. It is well worth the trip to go out. If you've ever thought about it, do it. And you need to plan for more than just one day, because the weather can be iffy. And I got to go in one. I just stroked the check, said, this is my, you know, if I die on this balloon, that's fine. It's one of the things I wanted to do always. But yeah, it was fine. But I suddenly said, put the camera down and drink in the moment. And I literally, it's like Alice in Wonderland. I just very methodically turned around and watched what was going on around me from behind the lens. And that's the picture I have in my mind, is the one where I put the camera down and I immersed myself in what was going on. And I think sometimes if we're not careful, we lose that moment.
True.
Some things are better experienced, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it really is. So to have the fun sometimes means putting it down. You have a shot that will remind you, but you have to have the experience also. There's a difference.
Very true.
And another thing is be patient. When I was in Bahrain, I took a picture with Ford in Bahrain, and there was a couple taking pictures back and forth, and I was like, so I took a picture, I waited to the left, I let them take their picture, and I took a picture right after they left. Right before I left, I was watching the sun as it was dropping, I went back in it real quick, and I saw the picture in my head that I want to take earlier, right there, and that's the one I have on my Facebook page, and I love that picture, and I actually got it in aluminum, and it just pops. It's a beautiful picture, and just some days you gotta just gotta be patient. That's the best way to just look at things. Like, you see a picture in your head, go back and try to recreate it. If you can't, just wait. If not, you might have to go back a few times just to try to get that picture you want.
I have a story about that. It's similar, yeah. I know exactly what you mean and how important it is to envision the photo. My favorite pictures that I've taken are the ones that I knew I wanted days before I ever captured that photo. Like, I just knew that this was what I wanted. I scouted out. I knew that there was going to be a moment, and it was just finding it. I took a side trip to Switzerland in April, and I wanted to get dawn on a Matterhorn, which is like a really iconic photo. I mean, it's not like I did anything original. People take this photo as often as possible, but it's just this beautiful, the way the light hits it, and you have to wake up at like 4 in the morning. You gotta hike up this hill, and you gotta sit there and wait and see what happens. And I mean, 70% of the time it's covered in clouds and there's nothing there. And it took me 4 days of waking up at 4 in the morning and walking up this stupid hill before I finally got this picture. But it's one of my favorite pictures ever because it was like, I knew, so just the planning ahead and being patient, yeah.
Well, sometimes you can't get what you want, like if you go places that are heavy tourist areas and you just gotta see a bodies and you wanna get the thing, but the people are there all the time. Just be patient and hang out for 30 or 45 minutes and click a few frames every 5 or 10 minutes, and then there are tricks you can do to make the people go away. Ultimately, you just have to get enough shots together to make that
Or you get
happen, to get the
creative
shot you
and
want.
you go make friends and you get up on someone's balcony. Simple about it. I tell you what, I've done it before where I couldn't get the shot and I was like,
Lob in a smoke
no,
grenade.
I get up here. People will say yes. People are nice.
You've got to write a book at the end of this.
Oh yeah, I don't know, maybe. It's been exciting.
Speaking of books,